Trucks aren't supposed to be that fast. They're built to haul furniture and cargo. But in 2004, there was one pickup that hit a record-breaking 154 miles per hour. And no, it wasn't built by Ferrari, McLaren, or Porsche, but by Dodge. The 2004 Dodge Ram SRT-10 shattered records. It bullied sports cars and made absolutely no sense. So, why did Dodge build a truck that could smoke a Corvette? And how did it become the most ridiculous pickup of all time? To find out, we have to go back to the early 2000s. Because that's when Ford's SVT Lightning was the undisputed king of performance pickups. It had 380 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque, and had already carved out a cult following. So how do you top that? Well, Dodge decided that they didn't just want to top it, they wanted to humiliate it. You see, somewhere deep inside Chrysler, a group of engineers had a reckless, brilliant idea. What if we dropped the Viper's 8.3-liter V10 into the Ram pickup? Not a concept car, but a real, road-legal production pickup truck. That idea shouldn't have worked. It should have stayed locked away in a backroom sketchbook. But instead, it manifested into the wildest truck the American auto industry had ever seen. And let me tell you, the numbers alone don't do it justice. Sure, 500 horsepower sounds impressive, but back in 2004, that kind of power didn't belong in a pickup truck. 525 pound-feet of torque belonged on a racetrack. Now here's the craziest thing about this pickup. That engine? It wasn't inspired by the Viper. No, it was the Viper's engine, bolted directly into a Ram. It was the biggest engine ever crammed into a production pickup. But there was a big problem. You see, Dodge engineers knew they had to basically rebuild the Ram from the inside out. They couldn't just slap the V10 under the hood and call it a day. So they did something crazy. They matched this engine with the same 6-speed manual pulled from the Viper. That's right, a stick-shift pickup truck with 500 horsepower. No automatic option, just you, the clutch, and a ridiculous amount of torque. Ford's SVT Lightning? This pickup suddenly felt tame. But here's the thing. A 500 horsepower pickup isn't worth a dime if it handles like a lawn chair in a hurricane. Dodge's vehicle operations had to work overtime to rework this pickup, or else it wouldn't even be rideable. So the team got surgical. Not only did they lower the ride height, they tightened the springs, and also reduced body roll. What was Dodge trying to accomplish? Well, they wanted to build a 2-ton truck, which handled like a damn sports car. At first glance, though, this might not look like a performance pickup, but as soon as you look a little closer, it becomes obvious this truck is something more. Ever seen a pickup with a factory wing? This one had it. And it wasn't just for show. Every scoop, vent, and split-second decision in the wind tunnel made this truck faster, more stable, and more menacing at speed. Viper wheels, red calipers, and a big red starter button. This wasn't pretending. It was loud, proud, and unashamed. Now, what about the interior? Well, if you were hoping for luxury, forget about it. Cheap plastics, gaps in the dash, and vinyl that belonged in a fleet truck. This wasn't about comfort, though. It was about chaos. It was the cheapest way to buy a supercar powertrain, wrapped in a working man's skin. But here's the thing. Dodge didn't just call this truck the world's fastest without backing it up. They put their wildest machine to the ultimate test, a professional NASCAR driver, and one of the longest oval tracks in the world. The goal was to break the damn record, and they did, in jaw-dropping fashion. The Ram SRT-10 averaged an astonishing 154 miles per hour over 2 high-speed laps. That number didn't just beat Ford's SVT Lightning. It obliterated it. And this wasn't some unofficial claim posted on a forum. It was certified by Guinness World Records. History was officially made. But speed wasn't the only story. Acceleration was just as important. You see, the SRT-10 could do 0 to 60 in 5 seconds flat. This put it toe-to-toe with some of the best sports cars of the era. You'd expect something this overpowered to be terrifying. But the SRT-10 was actually drivable. Throttle response was manageable. The ride was firm, but not punishing. Not only that, but the steering was better than some SUVs. But let's get one thing straight. this wasn't just about building a fast truck. It was a power move. Because when Dodge dropped the Ram SRT-10 onto showroom floors, they weren't just answering Ford's Lightning. They were rewriting the rules. You see, this truck didn't just turn heads in the pickup crowd. It caught the eye of supercar fans, people who wouldn't be caught dead driving a truck until now. Because now, the Ram SRT-10 had bragging rights that stretched way beyond the job site. This wasn't just a truck. It was Dodge's mic drop in a growing performance arms race. Every wild machine, though, has its final chapter, and for the Ram SRT-10, it became faster than anyone expected. Between 2004 and 2006, just 9,500 units rolled off the line. But here's the thing, that wasn't a failure. It was by design. Dodge didn't build this truck to fill showrooms. They built it to make a statement. Just 3 years of Viper-powered madness, and then it was gone. This begs the question, did the SRT-10 become a collectible due to its rarity? Well, trucks don't usually become collectibles. They get used, beaten, worn out. But not the SRT-10. Low-mileage beasts fetch nearly $10,000 at auction. And you better believe prices are still climbing. Why? Because this wasn't just a fast truck. It was the fast truck, the one that changed how we think about what a pickup can be. Manufacturers are still chasing the kind of raw, unapologetic performance that Dodge unleashed 2 decades ago, and yet none of them have dared to do what Dodge did. Nobody's dropped a supercar engine into a production pickup truck since. That makes the Ram SRT-10 not just rare, but one of one. But if you respect the SRT-10's story, it's important we go back to 1994 when one truck paved the way.
In 1993, Dodge was selling barely 90,000 trucks a year, while Ford and Chevy moved hundreds of thousands. The Ram pickup was dying a slow death with just 7% market share. But within 24 months, this desperate truck maker with nothing to lose made one radical design decision. One that would change the industry forever. The 1994 Dodge Ram would more than quadruple their truck sales to 410,000 units annually, birthing a car that would become an icon in the 90s. So, what was this design decision that many thought was too risky to try? And how did it manage to save Dodge from bankruptcy? Because in 1988, Dodge was in big trouble. Their trucks were old and not selling. The first generation Ram was based on a 1970s design. It looked and felt outdated. And while Ford and Chevy trucks were flying off lots, Dodge was falling behind. Sales dropped year after year. Dodge had less than 5% of the truck market. And a big reason for that is because the Ram itself. It was old, it looked boxy, and the inside felt small. Dodge needed help, and fast. To make matters worse, Chrysler, Dodge's parent company, was still recovering from almost going bankrupt. Another failure could ruin them. So, the truck team had one crucial mission: fix the Ram or shut it down. This birthed one of the most important projects in the company's history, Project T300. Internally, people called it Project Phoenix, like the bird rising from the ashes. They hoped the truck would make an inspirational comeback story. But it wasn't going to be easy, and small changes would certainly not cut it. What was the big problem? Well, Ford and Chevy basically owned the truck world. Their fans were super loyal, and some even had truck logos on their hats. Getting buyers to switch was nearly impossible. If that wasn't bad enough, the early designs for Project Phoenix were boring. They looked too much like every other car. Bob Lutz, a top Chrysler leader, wanted bold ideas instead. Something new, something wild. And that's where one designer stepped in who would change the company's fortunes forever. Philip E. Payne was an interior designer for Chrysler, and his resume was already amazing. He had helped on the original Ford Mustang, but now he had the hardest job in his career. Usually, a new truck takes years to develop, but Payne had half a year to redesign the Ram. The pressure was massive, and playing it safe wouldn't work on this occasion. But it was here where Payne made a bold decision. Instead of looking forward, he would look backward. Rather than copying Ford or Chevy, he studied semi-trucks, big rigs, and highway kings. These trucks looked powerful. They had tall hoods and bold shapes, and that became Dodge's new direction. So Payne and the team got to work. They studied older pickups, like the 50s Studebaker and Dodge Power Wagons from World War II. These trucks looked strong, serious, ready for work. So when Dodge showed the new Ram designs to execs, everyone was shocked. The truck looked big and tough. It didn't look like anything else on the road. This was a pickup that looked like a semi. But this bold decision was met with many critics. Some people inside Chrysler worried it was too different. Would customers hate it? Would it be too hard to build? No one knew. Suddenly, all the optimism was fizzling out. But when all hope was lost, Chrysler realized they had a secret weapon: computers. The second-generation Ram was one of Chrysler's first trucks designed entirely through computer modeling, rather than traditional clay sculpting. The new Ram didn't just look different, it was smarter too. The hood was taller, giving drivers a stronger view of the road. And the horse-collar grille bearing Dodge's distinctive crosshair design became an instantly recognizable signature. If that wasn't enough, the fenders stuck out like a semi-truck. This was a truck that broke all the rules when you looked at it. But it was the interior where this Ram changed the industry. You see, on the inside, the truck had almost 25% more space than before. Bench seats could recline, doors were larger, the dashboard even had modern controls. Not only that, but storage was everywhere. Cubbies, bins, and a center console. You could even fit a third person up front. The inside was ready for family, work, or both. But what made it all work? Well, the Ram didn't just promise power, it looked powerful, and that made people feel good when they saw it parked in their driveway. At a time when Ford and Chevy thought their trucks should become more like cars, Dodge thought the opposite. Trucks should look like they could move mountains. And when it was finally time for the new Ram to launch in '94, it wasn't just a hit, it was a game changer. Ford were shaking in their boots, so they responded by redesigning their F-150 in '97. Soon after, GM and Toyota followed as well. What started as a last-chance idea ended up changing truck design forever. The '94 Dodge Ram showed that truck buyers were open to bold new looks. As long as the truck still worked hard, they wanted something that looked strong, felt modern, and made them proud. And that's exactly what Dodge gave them.